high heels, a lot of them. Also bottles and bottles of Astroglide and baby oil and lubricant.
Welcome to Watch Mojo. And today we're breaking down the darkest, most disturbing details about freakoffs that have emerged in the criminal trial of Sean Diddy Combs.
He was asked, was Cassie Ventura on drugs when she was taking part in these freakoffs? He said she didn't appear to be on drugs.
Combs' favorite place to hold freakoffs.
It might not seem like it when it's all said and done, but I don't think he has nothing to worry about. I don't think he's worried because he's going to be federal. And if he gets convicted, Trump's going to pardon him. So what's the worry?
You think the President of the United States would pardon Sean Combs for sex trafficking?
On the heels of the news that Diddy's defense team is reportedly seeking a pardon from President Donald Trump comes another bombshell. David James, a former assistant to Sean Combs, testified that the disgraced mogul's preferred location to set his freakoffs was at the Trump International Hotel in New York City.
And at one point, he was even asked himself about hiring a prostitute and bringing it back to Combs' home without his knowledge, buying cocaine without Combs' knowledge. So again, it's what did Combs know? What did he not know? What were these employees doing on their own accord? Or were they really carrying out this RICO conspiracy?
James revealed that the hotel personnel knew him, quote, very well, and even gave him a key to the building as he coordinated the transportation of supplies to the various freakoffs. In a resurfaced 2012 clip from The Celebrity Apprentice, future President Trump said that he, quote, loved Combs and referred to him as a, quote, good guy.
I am a very strict and focused businesswoman because working for Diddy for 6 years trained me to have to be perfect.
Working for Diddy?
Absolutely.
I love Diddy. You know, he's a good friend of mine. He's a good guy.
He expects...
Is he a good guy?
I don't want to answer that
Oh,
question.
wow. I think he's a good guy. I'm going to stick up for him.
Cassie's refusal to participate in a freakoff resulted in that hotel footage.
She claimed in her lawsuit that she was physically assaulted by Diddy. Now our team in the LA Bureau, we have got our hands on that surveillance footage, and it appears to corroborate Cassie's claims identically. Really, Jake, the lawsuit lines up with exactly what we are seeing.
If you've been following the turbulent Combs case, then you'll likely remember the disturbing security camera footage published by CNN that depicted the rapper violently attacking Cassie Ventura. Ventura, the federal government's key witness in the trial, was Combs' on-again, off-again partner for over a decade.
Diddy is one of the most powerful people in music history. He is a mogul. We have not seen any support in Hollywood. All of his famous friends, since these allegations came forward, we have not seen anyone come to his defense, and that silence is very loud, Jake.
As Ventura testified in May 2025, that 2016 footage was the result of her trying to leave one of the freakoffs. Said Rachel Maiman, a former federal prosecutor for the Southern District of New York, quote, it sets the stage for the rest of the case, where the prosecution is going to have to back up her testimony with all of their evidence.
Pretty quickly over time, I knew the freakoffs weren't something I wanted to be doing, she said, especially how frequently. I didn't feel like I had much choice. I didn't know if he would be upset enough to be violent or if he would write me off and just not want to be with me at all.
Combs had employees on payroll to operate freakoffs.
Now, the last witness to take the stand was George Kaplan, a former assistant to Sean Combs, who says one of his responsibilities was to set up Diddy's hotel rooms. The first time he unpacked his bag, he said he found baby oil, Astroglide, candles, and liquor. The other times, he'd have to buy the items on his corporate card. He also had to make sure the rooms were in polished shape before checkout to protect Diddy's image.
While the man formerly known as Puff Daddy is currently the only defendant facing criminal charges, it is abundantly clear that he couldn't have gotten away with it all by himself. To that end, the federal indictment against Combs alleges that he, quote, used the Combs business, including certain employees, to carry out, facilitate, and cover up his abuse and commercial sex, and that, quote, those employees, including security staff, household staff, personal assistants, and high-ranking supervisors, and other close associates acted as Combs' intermediaries.
There was an incident he talked about where he felt he could not follow Combs' orders. It involved a personal chef, Chef Jourdan, where supposedly there was an altercation between her and Combs. Combs asked James to go to the police and file a report claiming that the chef had been the aggressor.
These employees were responsible for, among other responsibilities, procuring baby oil, as well as booking and cleaning hotel rooms. In addition, they were expected to deliver both commercial sex workers and large amounts of cash to pay them with.
And he said he was instructed by Diddy to pick up drugs 2 times. Both times, he testified, Diddy gave him cash to pay for it and gave him a number to call someone to pick it up. Now, tomorrow we'll continue with his testimony, with George Kaplan's testimony, but after Kaplan, we expect to see rapper Kid Cudi on the stand.
Meet the Punisher.
As I described in the text, they were very subtle. Mr. Combs was always basically across the room, and it would be in a low tone, and it would just be suggestive. It was nothing aggressive, nothing that would create some sort of scenario that this was like unnatural between them.
Just so it's clear, we're not talking about Frank Castle. No, in this case, the Punisher is the stage name of exotic dancer Sheree Hayes, whose testimony revealed several bizarre, previously unknown aspects of the Freakoffs. Said the BBC, Hayes, quote, was hired to create sexy, erotic scenes with Combs' then-girlfriend Cassie, while a naked man watched from the corner.
If there was no accusations, like in hindsight, all this stuff is in hindsight, like in the moment, I didn't see it as anything but a couple doing something risque, and Cassie as a partner trying to create a fantasy for who I believed was her husband, and for the majority of this.
Perhaps strangest of all were the conditions under which Hayes was expected to work. Not only was he instructed to completely ignore the aforementioned naked man, but Diddy wore a veil to cover his face. Hayes testified that over 8 to 12 encounters with the two, quote, Combs watched and gave directions. The directions included adjusting candles and instructing the two to have sex.
The sighing and the wincing was associated with some of the direction was very specific, and it could be one after the other in terms of move the candle to the left, move it a little more, move it a little more, and now move your body a little more, stuff like that. And it was kind of unnatural for a scenario where you're trying to create a sexual situation.
Meet Jonathan Odie.
New at noon, the man accused of opening fire inside the Trump National Doral Resort made his first appearance in court. Jonathan Odie is facing several charges. Among them, he's being held without bond on 2 charges on a $4 million bond on a second-degree murder charge.
The South African-born Odie first rose to notoriety in 2018 after storming the Trump National Doral Miami and engaging in a firefight and chase with police. A particularly confusing detail was Odie's reported references to Diddy at the time, which were explained somewhat by the ongoing trial.
I had like 15 encounters, and I heard a lot of business, because what they would do is Sean talks a lot on the phone and on the TV with speakers and stuff, and I was like a sex slave, okay?
Cassie Ventura identified him as one of the escorts that Combs had hired for the Freakoffs, and that his 2018 claims of being a, quote, sex slave actually bore some merit. Odie elaborated in a Miami Herald interview from prison, stating that he'd sometimes been requested to wear a police officer uniform and that he made $800 per quote-unquote performance.
I decided to record that, so in the event anything worse happened, like if she died, or anybody died, it will be on camera, it will be on video, what happened. So I wouldn't be responsible for any of that.
How Combs guaranteed Freakoff participation.
And then she was asked, after the defense had suggested she might have been motivated by money here, would she give back the $20 million that Sean Combs gave her as part of a civil settlement? She said, I would give the money back because I would have agency and autonomy, and I wouldn't have to work so hard to get those things back.
During her often disturbing testimony, Cassie frequently spoke of the ways that Combs would attempt to control her and ensure her submission. In one such case, Diddy allegedly forced her to carry one of his many firearms. She has retroactively described it as a scare tactic.
It reminds me of R. Kelly case. This is about money, power, and sex.
Not unlike what he did with Cassie, Combs is described in the indictment as using his considerable power and influence to rope unwilling victims into participating. As the document describes, these methods included, quote, obtaining and distributing narcotics to them, controlling their careers, leveraging his financial support and threatening to cut off the same, and using intimidation and violence.
The culture of silence was colossal. You know, it really protected Sean for a number of years.
These people think that they're so powerful that was never going to catch up with them.
Combs prepped to freak off while waiting to be arrested.
Now to Sean Diddy Combs' investigation, new surveillance video shows Combs being taken into custody.
The mogul's long career in music came to a decisive end following his September 2024 arrest at the Park Hyatt Hotel in Midtown Manhattan. You might have heard that part. The part you might not have known about would be the fact that, despite the knowledge that he would have to surrender to authorities, he was undergoing prep to hold yet another freak-off. The publicly released images of Combs' hotel room were what gave rise to the now infamous baby oil memes, and a grim insight into how he worked and operated. According to Special Agent Yasin Binda, some of the mysterious powders and substances found in the room were determined to be the narcotics ketamine and MDMA.
This has to be a 100% culture shock. I can't imagine living a lifestyle of the incredibly rich and famous and then going into this very dark, impersonal, cold, austere facility.
Combs carefully planned out the freak-offs.
On the stand, we did hear from a male escort who was testifying about his interactions with Cassie Ventura during those freak-offs. He described in graphic detail how they would begin with massages and baby oil as Sean Diddy Combs would be in the corner and he would be taking care of himself at those times.
Like a supervillain orchestrating his master plan, Diddy was allegedly tightly in control of all aspects of the freak-offs. And we mean all aspects. Per Cassie's testimony and as described by the New York Times, quote, assistants and security guards would stock the room with condoms, baby oil, and Astroglide, a lubricant.
Also some exhibits of a hotel room where some of the freak-offs would end up taking place. You can see that picture that was right there that we were just showing. That's showing some of the Astroglide as well as that baby oil. This is inside one of those hotel rooms where all that damage took place.
Cassie also testified that Combs, quote, asked that the baby oil be heated and that he wanted her glistening with it, requiring that she apply it in frequent intervals. Ventura even went so far as to describe the freak-offs as, quote, very choreographed and explicitly tailored to realize his voyeuristic personal fantasies.
He was testifying that he was responsible for stocking the hotel room. Let's take a look at some of his testimony. He was saying the items that he was required to get included 25 to 30 pill bottles, which included ecstasy as well as Percocet, food, drinks, personal items such as baby oil, lubricant, as well as condoms.
Combs and his participants needed IV replenishment afterwards. The freak-offs have been reported to last for days at a time, becoming a physically and emotionally exhausting experience for those strong-armed into participating. Part of Combs' employees' responsibilities, as noted in the federal indictment, was securing large quantities of IV fluids to help with his recovery afterwards. Cassie testified that alongside the IV fluids, Combs would provide massages and professionally cooked meals. Even those supposed kindnesses came with a dark side. Given the frequency of the freak-offs, Cassie noted that her reliance on the fluids left her with an opioid addiction. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. The freak-offs were filmed, and Combs held on to the footage.
She also testified that Combs first proposed the freak-offs after he began physically abusing her. After the first time, she said, I was high, so there was not much feeling, a mixture of dirty and confusion. I was humiliated. She also said the freak-offs were very choreographed. They happened in hotel rooms around the world, New York City, Atlanta, LA, Miami, Turks and Caicos, as well as Ibiza.
Perhaps most disturbingly of all, it's now public knowledge that Diddy allegedly conspired to have the freak-offs filmed and used as blackmail and extortion material. In one hard-to-stomach incident, Cassie recalled Combs playing a video of a sexual encounter in public.
They never seemed to make eye contact with one another, not even after she was crying about having loved him once and planning and participating in these freak-off sex parties because she feared him and she wanted to make him happy, but feeling worthless, feeling disgusting because she didn't want to do it.
In a 2013 recording played by Diddy's lawyers, Cassie is heard threatening a man who claims to have such footage. David James, Diddy's ex-assistant, also testified that Combs claimed to have kept a video of James dancing while on drugs, implying that he would hold on to it, quote, in case I ever need it.
Protecting him and protecting his public image was very important, and that was something I was very keen on doing. Now, Cassie testified that Kaplan quit after seeing Diddy abuse her. Now, we haven't heard that from him yet, but he is back on the stand in the morning.
Which Freakoff revelation shocked you the most? Be sure to let us know in the comments.